Okay, welcome back to the third iteration of Beers Blazers Basketball Galactica. It's been a while since kind of our initial thoughts on the draft class, and we reviewed the Blazers season. It feels a long time ago. I mean, we weren't even into I think we were the second round of the playoffs, maybe at that point. So a lot's changed. We've even had some free agent slash trades happen in the last 24 hours. But welcome back, Ben. What do you got to say?
Yeah, it's just great to be back. I mean, this is the Blazers sort of I would say, annual highlight for the time being, just because the draft is like, where we have a little hope, I feel like. So, the Celtics have obviously just won the title as of a couple days ago. And, just watching some of their parade and stuff downtown Boston today with a couple million people or whatever it was, pretty crazy to see, and always just like the light at the end of the tunnel that you hope for your own rooting interest one day. So great to be back. It's always fun to to do this in real time. And yeah, I mean, it's summer in the Northwest, so it doesn't get much better. Like, we have, Northwest summers are about the best you can get, and I hear that over and over. Just like, you have the good weather, low humidity, not a lot of bugs, and just like all the outdoor stuff that we have
Yeah.
available. So everyone in the Northwest is feeling good these days.
And that is a good time to usually drink a beverage,
Yeah.
happy beverages, for sure. Nothing's better than having a pint out in the sun. Over the last 10, 15 years too, there's been a lot more outdoor venues, rooftop venues, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Um, but yeah, how was your Father's Day?
It was great, man. Yeah. Yeah, enjoyed time with the fam, and actually the wife and kids were actually down at my mother-in-law's in Southern Oregon for a little bit, then came back up and celebrated Father's Day. And yeah, so it's great. Like I said, nice weekend. And um, yeah. So how about yours? How was yours?
Yeah, it was great. Went to my favorite brewery, Fort George in Astoria, that I
Oh, that's
talked
right.
about on one of the last
Yeah.
videos, and had a new beer called City of Rainbows. So it's
Okay. Yeah.
kind of similar to City of Dreams, which is like their year round, probably one of their most popular, if not their
Yeah.
most
It's a
popular,
good beer.
the hazy. But City of Rainbows, they actually, you can buy it in pints. I
Yeah.
still have one left that I brought back from there. And interesting enough, it also, I mean, Rainbow kind of gives it away, but like proceeds are going to the Q Center
Yeah.
in that area. So feel even better drinking it. So that's what I've been drinking
For Pride Month. Yeah,
recently.
that's cool.
And
Yeah.
I did want to give a shout out. They're one of my favorite beers from Breakside called um, Wanderlust.
Oh, yeah.
They've come out with a double Wanderlust. So to me, it tastes exactly the same, and it's adds in a little more alcohol. So kind of you're having two instead of three, which is nice. But yeah, those are kind of the current ones that I'm digging. What about you?
Or four instead of six, for that
Yeah,
matter.
yeah. Depends on the day.
Yeah, it depends on the day, right? Yeah, I over Memorial Day weekend we went over to Cannon, and I we went to Pelican Brewing
Yeah, love
and had a
Pelican.
really good meal there. Restaurant. I mean, it was packed because, of course, it's Memorial Day weekend. It was like an hour to get in, but had a and you'll laugh because of for those that don't know, and you wouldn't know on this show, but like I have an affinity for like a lighter beer. I used to get made fun of a little bit in college for like liking a daintier varietal of brew. So like fruity seasonal beverages like microbrews, like a Ruby from McMenamins back in the day was like something I really enjoyed.
That was before every beer was fruity, though. So
That's true. That's true.
yeah.
Yeah, it was
Now,
just
yeah,
not the same as it is now.
yeah.
They did have at Pelican, they had a really good one called Raspberried at Sea.
My
And so
mom
just
loves that one. Not
yeah,
to,
exactly.
not. I'm not even kidding.
See, I told you. It,
It
it
is
just
good
continues.
though.
It just continues.
It kind of
So
reminds, what it reminds me of is like a hard cider, but
yeah,
rap.
it's kind of like a hard cider. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I had one of those, and then a nice lager as well. So yeah, just
I have
uh,
one in my fridge, so it's not like I'm not
hey,
digging your hole
we were
for you.
just over
Yeah.
there. What the heck? Why didn't I get that? Anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, so that was kind of that nice meal over there, and always fun to, we're such a known quantity here in the Northwest and Oregon
Yeah.
especially. So great to be out there and get a new brew. So
Yeah. Cool. Well, maybe one of these days we'll actually be drinking when we do these.
yeah,
Maybe
that'd be cool.
our
That'd be cool.
post-draft one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what brings us here today is that we wanted to run through our own mock draft. We're about 5 days out. Yeah, next
Yeah.
Wednesday, right?
Wednesday. Yep.
5 days out. We've got a lot more intel. We've got our own opinions have changed. You're hearing about workouts and all that stuff, and I think we can put together a fairly accurate mock draft where we'll just switch off. But I think we wanted to mention a little bit since last time, maybe who some of our risers and fallers are. And again,
Yeah.
that's from a Blazers perspective.
Yeah.
I'll jump in really quick. Let me kind of bring in my big board here. That's what I call it. But Alex Sarr and Risa Shea are still my top two. It's not moving over. I can just talk through them. But my third, and again, this is from a Blazers perspective.
Yeah.
He was kind of in the middle of the lottery, but I've had Tijan Saloon move up, and to me, he's like my third choice. Like
Right.
I think here we go. So you can kind of see it here. I've decided that that's who I really want the most for the Blazers,
Right.
who I think is realistically available. And then, my whatever the opposite of penchant is for American whites. But like I do like Dalton Knecht. I think he'll be an instant help to wherever he goes.
Yeah.
And Blazers shooting is so poor that, I think he could immediately step in, provide a lot of really just coverage in that area. And I think he's big enough that you don't have to worry about playing him and Sharp at the 2 and the 3 together. I think most of the time, like they can share that. I don't think you want them starting together. There's not a lot of defense there, but I think you can get away with it for long periods of games, which is not what you could say when you were going Brogdon, Simons, and Sharp, for example. Like that was just too small. Or Sharp, Simons, and Scoot. Those kind of combinations. So I think it's a more realistic combination there. But those are probably the two that's moved up the most towards the top. What about you?
And we're talking Blazers specific here, right?
For us, for who Blazers, yeah.
So, I mean, you and I go back and forth so much every day about like risers and fallers. And I had a brief period where I was like, okay, Ron Holland, like, I kept watching tape on him, saw the motor that he brings, and just like, he brings defensive versatility. I know you've mentioned he's a good athlete. I think he's especially good at like finishing in traffic and a really good transition player. He rose up my draft board for a bit, and then like about a week ago, he fell back down as I started hearing more about his workouts and shooting woes, and then even his pro day was underwhelming. Shooting against traffic cones and things. So he rose and fall back down to about where he, mid to late lottery for me, and we'll kind of get into that in the mock draft portion here. I would say for the Blazers, Tidjane Salaün has I would say he's pretty close to where you've ranked him at as far as the Blazers go. I also
like Cody,
think
right?
I also really like Cody Williams. And one of the things that impresses me with him is just finisher at the hoop. Also, he finished, I think, in the 89th percentile. I think we mentioned that last time. And then also his combine measurements came in 7'1" wingspan.
Yeah. And a legit 6'7".
Little shorter. 6'6.5" without shoes, but that's really good measurements for a solid 3. Yeah. So you're talking 6'7.5" in shoes, with a 7'1" wingspan, a legit small forward in the NBA. If he can hit, I know he only took I think 1.5 to 2 threes a game, hit it at a good clip. So, and I know you want to see more attempts rather than percentage at the college or amateur level as far as 3-point shooting goes. But I think he at least has the instincts and the ability to get to a solid like 3-point shooter. And so I look at him as like someone that could immediately contribute as well, even if only 15 to 20 minutes a game. I just like his size and like versatility. So I would say he's a bigger riser than Salone. And then I have some other risers, but not necessarily related to the Blazers. So that's maybe where we can launch the mock off
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other guys, like you mentioned Holland, like he's definitely dropped for me, but I still have him at 12.
Yeah, yeah.
And Matas Buzelis as well.
Yep.
Like I just the G League Ignite thing scares me. And then they both have not really they haven't shown that they can shoot, which is just
Yeah.
such a big thing.
Yep.
But again, there's a difference of when you take them when it's a good pick versus a bad pick, and I haven't heard anything about injury problems. Like Holland has a great athletic profile. I think he's a
Yeah.
little overrated on how athletic, but yeah, I think that's kind of where I mean, I've moved up Missy and Ware
Yeah.
for the Blazers. I just think I like both of those guys better than say Edey and Klingon. So that's
Yeah.
why
You
in
mentioned that,
there,
which
and that's
yeah.
I have Klingon and Edey pretty low on here. Oh, where do I
Yeah.
have them? Yeah, I have them 20 and 21. I favor Edey a little bit more, but like I don't want the Blazers to take them unless it's a late first round or
I'd
something.
agree with that.
Yeah,
I mean, we
trade.
don't have a
So
late
there's
first
a
round
lot of
pick. So,
guys, and then
yeah.
like some of my what I would call sleepers. Like I really like Pacome Passom
Yeah.
Dadier. I'll just
Didier.
go with
Yeah.
his last name.
Didier. Yeah.
I think he's a guy that you could take early in the second or late in the first and get some similar value to a lot of
Yeah.
these guys in late. So yeah, I don't want to spend too much time, but those are just kind of the ones. Did anyone else drop for you?
I would say, well, just the one that just dropped due to injury, and I know we probably differ on this a little bit, but Topic, I had him like
Oh,
probably top 6, and he, with the information between our last show and this show, with the partial ACL tear, I had him dropping a little bit, and I'll tell you where I mock him at, but
okay.
I still think he's a really good, I still think he has a really good profile, and I watched some more tape on him, and he's got some outstanding like playmaking skills, and also like pretty good finisher in traffic, and a good passer like close to the hoop, which I think is really underrated. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of pretty good passers at the point guard, and even off guard spot that can pass and run a team from the perimeter. But Topic is pretty unique in that he's a good passer like close to the hoop and like really crafty,
Kind
kind
of
of
like
like
that
a
Steve Nash, like under the
Nash.
basket.
Even I
Yeah.
mean, Joker's obviously completely different
Yeah.
profile, but like
Rondo.
yeah,
But
like
kind of
he
those
just more.
wraparound passes in
Yeah, exactly.
traffic.
Your
Yeah, yeah,
wrap
no,
around
I
passer.
agree.
Yeah,
And I think his
yeah,
size is definitely a
yeah,
factor, like helps him
yeah.
there. So
Yep.
cool. Let's jump into we
Let's
talked
jump
a
in.
little bit about it. Let's jump into the mock draft. So we're gonna flip for who goes first. So you call it.
And we're just going to be alternating, right?
Yeah,
We're
we'll
just
just alternate. Yeah.
okay. Sounds good. So we'll have some kind of like on the fly stuff if either one of
You'll
us
take the
takes it.
teams with the red uniforms. I'll
Yeah,
take
right.
no. So you want heads or tails?
I'll do tails never fails.
Okay. There you go.
You're not showing it. So what do we?
Oh, you didn't see it?
No, I didn't. I didn't. You have the other the Blazers big
It
board
was
pulled up.
tails. You
That's
win.
fine. Okay, cool. I'll go. Am I going first or do I get to choose
You
where I
can
go?
choose if you want to go first or second. How about that?
Um, I want to go. I want to go even actually. So and then we can kind of rebuttal a little bit on each pick, like for the picks that we don't have. So, and I'll just preface this again with saying this is GMAC and I's like where we like what would be a good fit for that particular team. It's not what we're assuming the team will do or what we're picking the team to
I
actually
am
do.
going to take that a little bit into account,
Okay, okay, got it.
but not, I think we'll talk about the very first pick. I think like I'll jump into
Yeah,
it.
you can just jump in. You have the first pick then.
So
Yep.
the Hawks.
Okay.
There's been a lot of talk about Donovan Clingan. I think that would be absolutely idiotic if they took him that early. I mean, I personally don't like him much at all for most of these teams. But if you're the Hawks, I definitely don't get it. There's also been a lot of Risache talk there. That makes a little more sense. But I just feel like Sar, for almost everyone, thinks that he is the prize of this draft. He's fairly safe in that he'll be a really good defender with a lot of height and athleticism, and then he does have the tools and some of the potential to build out those offensive skill. I mean, he already has the ability to grab a rebound, put the ball on the floor, and dribble up, which is pretty rare for a 7-footer. So I'm gonna have them draft Sarr because I just could not believe if they didn't. Personally, if they don't and the Wizards don't, it makes me a little happy because there's a chance that some teams like the Blazers could possibly move up. So I'm going to go ahead and draft Alex Sarr.
Okay, that's fair. I think that's a really fair pick. I actually don't mind the fit with Atlanta at all. I mean, this is a team that's, moved way up to get the first pick. They're a team that ranked 27th in defense last season. You talked about him being like an Evan Mobley type. I've heard pundits, and then like even when I watch his film, he moves really well. Like even if he's limited offensively, like he moves really well for a guy that's over 7 feet tall, or right at 7 feet tall. So I like the pick. We've seen other teams be successful with two bigs. Can he play the four? And then can Atlanta really make it work while moving off one of their point guards on either Murray or Trae Young? So yeah, I like the pick. I think it's fair, and I think he should definitely go over Klingon. So I think we're both on that. The one thing I will say is, to my knowledge, and I don't know if you've heard otherwise, I have not heard that Sarr worked out for the Hawks.
He has not worked out.
So that seems a little odd to me.
I think that's because he doesn't want to go there, and the agent is preventing it. Not that Atlanta hasn't invited him now.
That just seems bizarre though, because in a pick like the salary is so much higher for the first overall pick. So that seems bizarre that he wouldn't want to be the first pick. But yeah. Anyway,
Washington Wizards. Yeah.
Washington Wizards, back to the evens now. I'm gonna go Zachary Risacher. I have concerns for him, but I still think he's a top 2 prospect in this draft. We talked about it last time. If he can turn into Mikal Bridges, that's a huge win. We have gotten some additional information from the combine. I think his measurements were only like 6'8.5". I mean, 6'8.5" height is great. 6'9.5" wingspan, a little underwhelming for that height. You hope he can develop that additional like creation off the dribble game. But the Wizards are just a team that needs talent top to bottom, and you got to go with like best player available. I think he has a decent floor. I'm a little bit concerned about just his like creation.
Yeah.
But I will say, and I'll probably bring this up on other picks as well. The 2025 draft is supposed to be just absolutely loaded with wings. So it's not the worst thing in a draft that's not supposed to be quite as good, to like just pick players even at the top of the draft that are going to be like solid NBA players.
Yeah.
If you can get a Mikal Bridges like in this draft, that's full of more question marks, I don't think it's a bad thing. So have concerns about him, but I still think the Wizards, I would pick him for the Wizards at 2, and I think they probably would if he was at 2.
Yeah. I want to go quick on this one. I think Reed Shepherd is probably who Houston would take.
Okay.
I think he's like Fred VanVleet is a really good comp, and he'll be backing him up. If he's there, he can play kind of that combo guard, and they have like Amen Thompson and Jalen Green. Like they have some size that they could play him with, so it's not like you have to worry about him being next to a real point guard, that kind of thing. But I do think that third pick is a pretty good chance it's traded.
I think so too.
Yeah. And I think Blazers are one of the candidates, honestly. So
they could be. I had the same pick, GMAC. So Reed Shepherd. He shot 52%.
Klingon doesn't make sense there. Like he can't play.
He can't play with Sengun. He can't play with Sengun.
You can't play them together. And I don't believe in drafting a backup at the third pick.
For the similar reasons too. He shot 52% on nearly 4.5 attempts a game.
And he's a good defender.
Good defender.
His measurements were bad, but his athleticism was good.
He's got other playmakers, like you're saying, Sengun and Amen Thompson. So I agree with you.
Cool. All right.
Spurs. All right, back to Spurs. 4th pick. Shout out, buddy Lauren Garces here. He's a huge Spurs fan. I know Lauren likes Matas Buzelis. From what I'm hearing, and not from what I'm hearing, I sound like a pundit, like I have sources in NBA or something.
Our
For
sources are other people's
our sources
sources.
are other like podcasts and other
Yeah.
media. But I would say I know they just worked out Stephon Castle against Devin Carter, I believe. I would say again, I think that's a pretty like Stephon Castle would be my pick probably for them. I like his defensive versatility, streaky shooter, but 6'5.5", really good size. Um, I know he's kind of limited his workouts to like where he feels like he'd be a good fit at point. 6'5.5", again, 6'9" wingspan. And I think you could do a lot worse for like a starting level guard, even if he's not going to be like your primary playmaker eventually, like secondary playmaker, and you're, not as good as Marcus Smart defensively, but maybe he adds a little bit more of offensive versatility to your lineup as well.
Bigger. Yeah.
And he's just bigger. Yeah. So I like to fit next to Wemby and Devin Vassell and like Sohan. And I don't think they retain Keldon Johnson. I think they move him eventually, but that's a pretty good core five. And then they obviously have another top 8 pick in this draft. So I'll start with Castle. I could see them doing something else, but I would go Castle here probably.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like they have the 8th pick too.
Yep.
They could get a more natural point guard there as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Because I do think that's going to be very important when your best player is a big, right?
Right.
You don't expect him to bring the ball up that often. So all right, Pistons. I know there's been a lot of mocks saying Matas Buzelis, but then they hired a new GM. I've also like they need shooting so bad, and
Yep.
I think it's going to be Connect, and I think that actually makes sense. They have a lot of youth that just doesn't really mix, and they need
Yeah.
someone. They need a glue person, and I don't think there's anyone else in the draft like they can be patient with their current roster.
Yeah.
They have enough guys that they're waiting on. They need someone who can step in, still on their timeline, and I think just fills such a huge need for them. So I'm going to go Dalton Connect. I think that's just a smart pick, even if you're not like maybe ends up being Kevin Herter type. Like I think you're
Yeah.
fine with that. You've got
Yeah.
Cade. He's kind of an alpha. Jaden Ivey, it needs the ball a lot, so you need someone else who doesn't necessarily need it.
I went between Buzelis and Connect for that
Yeah.
pick, honestly. And it's more of the surefire thing, like you're saying with Dalton, and then more of the swing for the fences type of Buzelis pick.
Yeah.
So I went Buzelis, but we're going back and forth here. So if you believe in Buzelis and you believe in his shot, then he's the bigger player and the more versatile player, and would fit probably better long term with like playmaking with Ivy and Cade Cunningham, and then a good versatile big in Jalen Duren. But I don't fault the Connect pick, and it's a good pick for them, I think, too. So I just talked about that. Like, so I went Dalton to the Hornets at 6, but that is not a place I've heard a lot of like him rumored to be going to Charlotte as far as Dalton goes.
It's been a lot of Castle.
Yeah, it's been a lot of
Despite the
Castle.
point guard thing. So
and they're saying that they could play them together. It's not like Castle's a small player,
no,
but
no.
so I haven't heard a lot, but I do think he fits pretty well. Like Connect would fit pretty well with LaMelo as well, surrounded
Yeah.
with like Brandon Miller and then Mark Williams at the center. I also think that Charlotte did a pretty good job. Like everyone talks about, Presti and the Thunder moving to get Gordon Hayward, but their return, and especially with the Mavs deal, like Grant Williams after the trade deadline played insanely for them. He played really well.
Back to
Trey
the
Mann,
Celtics
Pokusevsky,
frame.
like those guys came over, and that was easy to move off that Hayward money and like just take some flyers on young Thunder players that weren't otherwise going to be in their rotation.
Who did they get? Did they get any players from? I mean, they got Grant Williams from Dallas for
Mm-hmm.
that. Was that it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
For the PJ Washington move. There might have been some filler thrown
Yeah.
in. I can't recall. But those are the primary players. But
Well,
yeah,
then
so
who do you got him taking? Yeah.
so as far as Charlotte goes,
Yeah.
well, I had Dalton, but I'm gonna go because you took him at Detroit. I'm probably just going to switch those. I don't think you can really. I mean, if you believe, if you believe at all in Buzelis, I don't think he should fall out of the top 6. So I'm just going to swap those.
All right.
Again, you're talking Buzelis, versatile big wing.
I mean, he'd be like, but between him and Miller, that's your 3 and 4 for the
Yep,
future because they don't really have. I mean, yeah, Grant Williams is not their future there, right? So
exactly. So and a little bit of ability to play behind Grant Williams to start.
yeah,
Again, not
got
great
some
measurements.
Gordon Hayward in him. Yeah,
6'10", like good height, probably 6'10" in shoes, but like I think 6'10" wingspan. So, so nothing. I know that's not everything, but only shot 27% from 3. Still attempting quite a bit. His free throw percentage doesn't that's not exactly promising. You want to look for a good free throw percentage, at least 68%. But I just think you can't let him fall, like versatile bigs
yeah.
like that. You can't let him fall outside like the top 6 or 7. So I'm gonna go Buzelis for Charlotte.
Cool. Blazers, I'm gonna go against my own draft
Oh my
board
goodness,
here.
what is
And
going on?
and I'm actually gonna take Cody Williams. And my thought process is that I think it'd be easier to move up from 14 to whatever than it would be to draft Tajon, because I don't think Saloon will probably be around at 14.
No, he
And
wouldn't.
I
I don't think.
definitely know Cody Williams won't. So I think if Cody Williams is available at say 10, that team is just gonna, or wherever, if we don't take him, he could possibly go 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13,
Mm-hmm.
any of those. So I think Sajon Salon we have an easier time maybe trading in. I keep saying we, like I'm the actual Blazers, but
Well, you are.
in this scenario, yes. So I'm going to take Cody Williams because I think it is a little more flexible. And I think it's less likely for him to be around at 14 or maybe a little bit in from there versus so on. I'm playing chess.
That's fair. I mean, you left it wide open for me with the Spurs at 8, but Cody Williams, you've already heard me talk about that. Like I see the upside there, and again, I really like the fact that he finishes really like in the 89th percentile at the rim with good size, 7'1" wingspan. I love that. So at 8, if I'm the Spurs and you've taken, Blazers just taking Cody Williams, I'm taking Tidjane Salaün.
Yeah.
I know he's really close with Wemby. I've heard like they're really close friends, if not best friends. Pretty big swing in this draft. Pretty big swing in this draft. Again, another Frenchman. Dan Marang with Jack Ramsey is amongst, beat reporter for the Blazers. He's talked about like he's not the biggest swing that people make him out to be. Like he has a decent floor just because of his size.
And
so
yeah,
more advanced Mo Wagner. You'd hope that he just has that potential. Like that would be the absolute floor, hopefully. And then, we've seen Wagner, like as he's moved into like a bigger role, like he's put up really good numbers actually. And he's a pretty mobile big. So he also, again, you don't really know, but I've heard like on pods and things that he's worked out really well. So I would imagine that he will go top 8. If not like top 10, I would imagine top 8 though. Like I wouldn't imagine he'd fall outside of like the Spurs picking at the 8th pick. So that's what I'll say. So if I'm the Spurs, I take him and I'm happy about it, pairing him with Wemby and just having like more monster frames like that are really versatile.
Yeah, and I agree. I think you're hoping that they're taking guards and that they're not getting probably Castle where they got him in order to make it so they don't want him. But if he's available, I think he's a good fit there.
Yep.
Like he just has to he's like could be a dirty work guy that can hit a 3 mostly.
Yep.
I think this is pretty easy. If he's available, they're taking Klingon. They need.
You're talking Memphis now, right? At 9.
Memphis, on to Memphis. Klingon makes perfect sense. He can start next to JJJ. He can, soak up those minutes that they used to get from Steven Adams. They obviously didn't look as good when they lost that. Obviously, a lot of injuries too. But I think he just makes sense. So you're not asking Triple J to play.
7'2" without shoes, 7'7" wingspan. Yeah. I know you're not that high on him, and I actually don't think he fits their profile very well, their team profile very well. He's a little bit of a slower big. Adams is like, he's not the most athletic guy, but he's just like built like he can
Yeah.
still run and be pretty mobile. But I still think if you can get Donovan Clingan at 9, like, and they have a hole at the center spot, like you got to
Yeah.
go on
You're,
that. So I totally
yeah.
agree.
You're probably going for like Jaren Jackson Jr. as the Karl Anthony Towns guy and Klingon as like a
Yeah.
Rudy Gobert kind. Now,
Yep.
neither of them are as good as those two,
Right.
especially Klingon compared to Gobert. But like, who knows? And they do. There's a lot of talk of like, hey, he can maybe be an open 3-point shooter eventually, right?
Or a
But
playmaker from the block,
yeah,
right?
and
Like
he's
that's the
definitely
other.
better at like a pick and roll. He's not going to be making like really good decisions with
Yeah.
passing, but he'll roll to the
Yeah.
basket, and he's not quite a lob threat, but he's enough of a threat near the basket. So I think that makes sense. I think this is where it's getting a little tricky though. So the Jazz,
I've got the clear 10th pick, GMAC. It's an easy one
it's
to me.
Holland, right?
Nope, it's
Oh,
not Holland. I have Serbian sensation Nikola Topic here. I
is he a
like
sensation?
partial ACL tear. Again, I think he goes higher without that. Keontae George, I know, played a lot of like their point
Yeah,
guard
he could play next
minutes.
to him. Yeah,
I think he can play next to him. Again, he's kind of like their Simons. I feel like he's kind of that tweener mold. Hopefully, be more efficient with the 3 ball moving forward. But he did show flashes this year. We already talked about it at the top of the hour. But like, just he's a really crafty player. He's okay at that size, even to he's okay with contact and like finishing at the rim. Really high level playmaker. Um, and I think, even for the Spurs, like he was rumored to be in the Spurs before the injury, but then I think he's maybe dropped back a little bit. I could still see the Spurs taking that like swing pick there.
for
But
sure.
I just like his vision and that like we're talking about that overhanded hook pass that he uses, like with both hands, even like he finds the corner
Yeah,
shooters. And
he
that I
reminds
think
me of
is,
Sergio Rodriguez a lot.
yeah, yeah, but bigger.
A little bigger,
Yeah, a
yeah,
little
for
bigger.
sure.
And he's like 205 pounds, I think, or 210 pounds. So he's built. He's pretty good size, even for having not great wingspan. I think wingspan same as height at 6.5,
Yeah,
6'5.5". So that'll be my pick for them. I think he's also ability to set up Markkanen and Collins and the rest of those rest of his teammates there in Utah would be a good fit. So I'm going Topic pretty easily there.
cool. Yeah, I think this opens up. You haven't heard a lot about him, but he got an invite to the green room, which means he's expected to go high. I actually think the Bulls would take Jacoby Walter. I mean, he's a little undersized. I mean, about the same
Interesting.
size as Shaden Sharp, not as
Okay.
athletic, but he's got a really long wingspan for being. It's 6'4" is his official measurement.
Yeah.
And he started the season out shooting ridiculous. He cooled off a little bit, but you can
Mm-hmm.
see his shot, and it's not just like wide open shots. It's off the dribble. It's off of screens. I feel
Yeah.
like he could fit in well because the Bulls are horrible shooting. The Josh Giddey addition's not helping their shooting, but he'll need someone to pass to that can shoot. I feel like they're definitely going to move Zach LaVine, probably Vucevic too. So I think this makes the most sense. I thought Holland for a second, but it's like he just doesn't shoot.
That's who I had. That's who I had there.
Maybe he could be a DeMar DeRozan type, but
That's
yeah,
exactly what I had him
yeah,
replacing
I
DeMar.
can see them taking him. He seems like
Yeah.
their type of guy, but I would go. I think Walter makes sense too.
Yeah, Jacoby Walter's a good pick. I agree. Like he's kind of like not being talked about as much. I feel like he had more buzz early on,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's just from the workouts or I haven't heard much.
He's
Just like,
apparently, I've heard a couple things, again, from other podcasts, and I've been
yeah,
watching a lot of the Locked On from the local
yeah,
guys,
yeah,
and especially Houston, because I'm trying to get how they feel about these mock trades and stuff. But
right.
they've mentioned like people think he has a promise, pretty high up, and I guess he's just been shooting lights out in all the workouts. So one of
So
those.
that'd be a good one then. Like Kobe White was, I think he finished second most improved player this season. So
Yeah, yeah, he was good.
really good. I mean, after Levine went down, he was excellent. Giddey adds. I think I'm probably a little higher on Giddey than others. I do think that Caruso, like the Caruso for the Thunder is amazing,
Yeah,
but I do think Giddey's like, I mean, Giddey's only like what 21, 22,
21. Yeah.
6'8", like so I can see him being a real asset for the Bulls,
For
and
sure.
yeah, I like that. Like if they can
Hey, we'll
surround,
get to the team previews later.
yeah, yeah. Okay,
Um,
I gotta
yeah.
go. I gotta go Thunder now, and I'm excited about the Thunder pick. And who do you think I might have for the Thunder?
Edie?
Yep, Edie. And it's because I just like the fact that, especially with the Caruso Giddy trade, I feel like they have a really good first rotation, like first set, like their set of starters is pretty set and
Yeah, they're
established
just
at this
filling
point.
little holes at this point, you know.
Um, Edie just comes in and controls the second unit,
Or is that
right?
Josh
So,
Giddey?
yeah, so he just comes in and like they have Jalen Williams. I think Jalen Williams is only what 6'8", 6'9". Um, I know it'd be a completely different look for the center spot for them. They're used to Chet just like stretching the floor and SGA and others being able to just like be at the rim and finish at the rim. But I do think that, I mean, this guy's just massive, 7'4", 7'11" wingspan. Again, Zach Lowe at the last trade, at like upon after the last trade deadline, he was talking about how like they value those guys that can shoot. So like a Hartenstein maybe, or somebody else that might be a more mobile shooting big. But I just like the fact that this is a really good big, and you know, you never know. You're showing your email right now, Gmail. Um, you
It's
never know.
showing.
Yeah, the email showing. You never know what
Weird.
Presti will do, but I think that's a good get. So I would feel comfortable with Edie, and I also think it's just like Presti has a tendency to just kind of go against the grain a little bit, and I feel like Edie's kind of climbed up the boards after the championship run, but he is like I do see Presti being like, you know what, like this is a guy that was just an absolute monster into the title game for the NCAA championship run. So I can see him just being like, yeah, he's going to lead our second unit. So
Okay, so 13th pick with the Kings. Now, this is more interesting because they just re-signed Monk, which I don't think people actually expected them to be able to do. And so a lot of the
uh,
mocks had a guard going there, Devin Carter, Jared McCain, those type of guys.
yep.
Um, Rob Dillingham's kind of fallen for us.
Yeah.
Um, Ron Holland, we talked about him a little earlier, but who do you think fits here?
Is this yours or mine?
Oh, this is mine, huh?
I think it's yours. Yeah.
You're
But
right.
I mean,
Well,
I
I know
can,
who fits here.
yeah. Who's that?
Tristan Da Silva.
Okay.
So I think they're going to still try to move one or both of um, Harrison Barnes and
Herder.
Herder. I'm trying to think of his nickname.
Red
Something.
Rocket.
Yeah, it's something better with a red hair reference, but similar.
Oh.
But I think Tristan Da Silva, one thing they miss is after, Chris Murray and Harrison Barnes, they don't have a lot of wing depth,
hmm
especially with size.
hmm
And Da Silva's not known for being like a great defender, but he's competent. And I think his shooting's for real. He shot really well over the last 2 years.
hmm
Good volume. He kind of plugs all those holes. I think he would be a perfect fit for them. They're trying to win sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So they like Holland might sound good, but it's like I don't think he's a contributor for them for a few years. Sabonis and uh, Darren Fox are late 20s. I mean, they're not old, but you can get this guy in, and I think he contributes immediately and still has room to grow. But that's who I would take if I were the Kings.
I like that pick. It also kind of fits the mold of what they would probably consider, just because I remember they went against the grain and did Ivy was the potential like fourth pick or whatever for that draft a few years ago, and they went Keegan Murray.
Yeah.
So I can see that being also a likely pick for them. They're just looking to, like you're saying, they just re-signed Monk for I think a really good contract, 4 years, 78 million, I think, which is a good contract for how efficient offensively he's been and what he does for them off the bench. Yeah, I think
I think
yeah,
they found something in Keon Ellis as like a
yeah,
good wing defender, and he
hmm
actually showed he might not be a horrible shooter, which
yeah,
is kind of what happened to Davion Mitchell, is that
yeah,
like he can't shoot. He's still a great defender. He's also
yeah,
tiny, but it's like you don't need to necessarily bring in kind of a smallerish guard. You could start Keon Ellis. Um, Depending on who they get, if they get a 3 or a 4, someone that they're pairing with Keegan Murray in the front court, And then you've got Keon Ellis could be your shooting guard, and then you could, Tristan Da Silva could be a pretty good bench player coming off there. That's how I kind of see it. And then you still have Davion Mitchell as kind of your backup point guard, and I think that adds a lot of depth.
Yeah, I like that pick. And again, just you can never go wrong with size. So I think that's something that they would definitely consider as they try to just continue their run and try to get, make a deep playoff run at least. So,
All right.
oh,
I think I know who
14.
you're going here.
Well, I have two, and I actually might go. I mean, I would, if Dillingham fell this far, I'd probably go Dillingham.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
mean, you have
have
to assume the Blazers are going to trade one,
Simons,
if
or
not two, of
yeah.
Simons and Brogdon. Yeah.
So, I mean, you're talking Dillingham is,
Can he play point though?
I think he can. I mean, he wasn't like a primary playmaker for Kentucky, but you know,
Yeah, four
he's
assists. That's not
yeah,
bad.
still 4 assists, 6'1", 6'3" wingspan. Good decision maker. I mean, he shot 44% on three, 4.5
Yeah.
attempts a
I mean,
game.
he's so small.
He's small.
Oh,
I actually had somebody different for the Blazers at 14. I didn't expect Dillingham to fall this far, but I'm gonna go a different route for this pick, because I don't think Dillingham would fall this far. So I like, and I know this one's kind of coming off the cuff, so you wouldn't expect it, but I like Devin Carter at 14. And same reason, like if Blazers are moving on from Simons, let's bring in a good like perimeter
yeah.
defender for once. Jack of all trades. He's 22, a bit older. Shout out again, another friend, Sean Marsters, who went to Providence and his team just won the title. So it's Celtics fan. But can Devin Carter be a Drew Holiday type? So jack of all, very poor man's Drew Holiday probably, but
Yeah.
jack of all trades type player. 37% 3-point shooter on 6.5 attempts per game, monster rebounder from the guard spot.
Pretty athletic for his size.
Huge, big wingspan.
Yeah.
Only 6'2", but like big wingspan. I think like 6'8", 6'9" wingspan. And it bodes well. I just read this thing. I didn't read through the whole article, but there's an article about the sons of former NBA players actually working out more times than not. And this is the son of former NBA player Anthony Carter. So, we're obviously in guard town here. We got Scoop, we got Simons, we got Malcolm here, we got Shaden Sharp. We have all this development to do. But, especially since we took a wing with the first pick and we're not going to be able to play all these guys, I don't think it, and we're going to have some other player movement. So I think that this would be a good pick. I'd be happy with Devin Carter at 14. So
yeah,
I know we hadn't talked about him that much, but yeah.
I mean, he was projected a lot to go to the Kings at 13.
Yeah,
With before the Monk knowledge,
yeah.
they may still take him. I think Da Silva would probably make more sense.
And had they just given up on Davion Mitchell, like the Kings?
I mean, they really missed another guard, and again, they didn't have Porter in or Monk in the play-in games. So you hope both people aren't out for a while, both of your guys, but like if they would have had another guy, because I do think Keon Ellis was all right, but yeah, Davion Mitchell. I mean, he was good against the Warriors because you need him to chase around someone, but then
he's small too, man.
Yeah, he
looks
small.
so small,
and he's not like a great shooter, and I think Devin Carter is small, but not that small.
Yeah.
Obviously, like he plays like he is more of a Scoot sized guy. Kind of you're on the smallish end, but makes up.
He's kind of got like some Dame type measurements too. Like, but maybe
Dame and Scoot are like exactly the same size. So
yeah. So, but just more of a 3-point shooter, or not as much as Dame, but like more of a 3-point shooter than Scoot, hopefully to start. And then again, just like whereas Dame, obviously the extremely well-rounded offensive player, even as a rookie, like you'd hope Devin Carter would be that version, maybe defensively. And again, I don't shy away from like older rookies at all anymore. I just it doesn't even bother me at all anymore that he's 22. So
no, you're not getting like superstars, but I mean, I just look back, like Brandon Roy was the older rookie and he was awesome. Like even and Dame and CJ, they were not 18, 19. Like they were great. I mean, there's a lot of good players. Now,
Yep,
obviously the best is like if you have someone with similar production and they're 19 instead of
totally,
21, but
totally.
that's really rare. I feel like this draft more than most is there's a lot of they could be really good. Like,
Well, and also it's like they're still only 21 or 22 years old. It's not to say that they still can't
no,
improve. It's like, oh yeah, this guy's a polished, finished product because he's like Dalton Connect's like what 23 at time of draft.
yeah.
Like that
You're
doesn't. I mean, he's still young. Like he's
these
still going to
days in
get
the
better. Yeah,
NBA,
yeah,
most players aren't declining until they're like
right.
34,
Yeah,
so it's like if you don't develop until you're 25, that's still 8 years of prime,
yeah, exactly.
so yeah, I mean, that's kind of it's frustrating sometimes because I don't want to be patient with Scoot and
Yeah,
Shaden.
yeah,
And part of it is you want to see the signs, which it's like Shaden rookie year, you could see the signs. And then like last year was a disaster because
yeah,
of injury and I mean, just roster
yeah.
construction and all that stuff. So I still have high hopes for him, but really we're not going to know till do you want to not know by the end of their rookie contract? I think it makes it tough. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Like
I
you
know. I
want to
mean, you're
know
right.
before they have to sign that extension and all that. So
Exactly. Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I think this is good, and I think it's interesting because I haven't really seen one where it's shaken out like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't. I think the most controversial picks are probably these last four.
Yeah.
Um,
Probably.
but like, I mean, I think the movers and shakers. There's gonna be trades. I just have a feeling there's gonna be trades. I think the Blazers are going to at least make one trade during the draft,
Yeah.
or maybe shortly thereafter, right? Like how we got Tumani last year. That was even after summer league and stuff. Like maybe some of that stuff happens with. There's a lot of Jeremy Grant speculation to the Sixers now, so maybe there's some moving pieces around there. I still think there's some Jeremy Grant or uh, Malcolm Brogdon to like the Rockets at 3 or something like that. Orlando
Yeah.
has like what, the 18th pick or something.
Yes, I believe so.
So who's some of the guys like maybe who we didn't draft that you
Yeah.
can see come? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious these three could easily be in the lottery. I've
Oh,
heard a lot of
definitely.
good
Yeah.
things about McCain. Um,
Yeah.
but like
Can I? Yeah. I think so. One guy that was way higher up on our boards, like I think even at time of when we did the first like the last show where we talked about some players interesting for the Blazers. The Duke center Kyle Filipowski, see him at
yep,
21 there on the list. Just looking at the later part of the draft, I thought, for maybe pick 23 Milwaukee. I've seen him
yeah,
mocked like in the second sometime. Like, boy, what a great like backup for Brooke
that's a good
Lopez.
pickup. Yeah,
And then also just someone that's able to kind of fill his shoes hopefully eventually. I mean I don't think if he worked out really well, I know he worked out for the Blazers. If they took him at 14, if they were happy like with his workout, I wouldn't be shocked or like, oh man,
no,
that's terrible.
his negative
Especially if we got a wing at
wingspan
7.
wasn't great.
Yeah, but I mean, he's a shooter.
Yeah.
He's got some
He-
playmaking ability,
You're looking
and
at him as like a part-time center that can
yep,
play power forward some too.
in
You're
very
saying,
short spurts, probably.
yeah,
Yeah. And again, Giannis is just a guy that clearly needs the lane cleared. Which is why Brooke
yeah,
has worked so well for him. So I think Filipowski, I thought was a really good, interesting fit for Milwaukee. How about you? That's pick 23. And
yeah. I
any,
mean, I honestly, I've really moved Keyshawn George up a lot.
yeah, I remember you saying that. Yeah.
And wait till I finish the sentence before you freak out. But
Okay.
he reminds me of
Ridiculous.
he reminds me of Luca in the sense that he's a big guard that's below the rim, right? Like he's not
Okay.
finishing strong at the rim in terms of like throwing it down or like taking a lot of contact and slithering it up, but he uses his big body really well in the lane to get a floater up or a layup or whatever. Again, not I think maybe Kyle Anderson, a smaller Kyle Anderson's probably a better
Okay.
description, but
But it's faster. He's definitely faster than
yeah,
Kyle
he's fat.
Anderson.
He's not
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
unathletic as Kyle Anderson. He's a little bit smaller, but he is big. I mean, he's a legit
Oh,
6'7", no shoes. Uh,
what about our comp? I think yesterday or a couple days ago, Delano Banton.
yeah,
Like,
I think he's already a better shooter. Like, I
okay.
mean, he took almost five a game and made 40%.
Hmm.
And that was the majority of his offense. And most of it is catch and shoot, which I
Yeah.
actually think is good, but he has shown that he's a good ball handler like Delano. Um, so I do think that's someone that could be late lottery or shortly thereafter. I mean, I think like
I've seen
Miami
him.
right here. I mean, they would take Dillingham if he was still
Oh,
around
definitely.
for
It would
sure.
be like
And I
the
don't know if
easiest
you
pick
saw
ever.
some of the reports today, but it sounds like Jimmy Butler's like just gone. Like,
Yeah, I saw a little bit of that today. I haven't looked
yeah.
that much into it,
So they may
but
be
yeah, that's
looking, get younger. I mean, Jimmy's going to be 35,
mhm.
so they could get younger and just take like the Ron Hollins or Rob
Well,
Dillingham.
that's why I had Jacoby there. Like if you didn't take him with the at the Bulls
Yeah,
pick, I had Jacoby at 15. But I can see him going, I can see Jacoby going like late lottery for sure.
I do like
Um,
Carlton Carrington. I think he's got like a CJ type of
yeah,
game to him.
not a great finisher. Like that's the he doesn't have much of like a creation game. Um, but I have heard good things. He's got pretty good size. I think he's got a really good wingspan, doesn't he? Like
Yeah,
um, could be
he's
disruptive. We haven't talked about Khalil Ware. He's not on my list, but he's
yeah.
been
I mean, I
mocked
have
like
him pretty
10,
high
11
on
even. Yeah.
yeah on the big board. I think Missy is more of a super like more of a Bam to me.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
he dribbles, he doesn't
Yep.
shoot. I mean, he doesn't have the passing obviously, but I don't think Bam had the passing coming out of college either. And Khalil Ware, I think he's more of like a plug and play. Like, hey, he might hit a few threes. He's gonna do some lob threats, some good big body and defense. He moves pretty well. Never going to be great, but um, you know,
Miles Turner, if he could be.
yeah, like a
Yeah.
poor man's Miles Turner, somewhat
Yeah.
more like a Jalen Smith, something like
Yeah.
that.
Probably.
He's
Probably
bigger.
most.
I know you liked Tyler Kolek. There's actually quite a lot of
There's
career backup point guards in this, and I mean that in a good way. You
I
know,
wanted to chat about a couple other guys. One quick one was Harrison Ingram, and I bring him up
yep,
because Danny Moraine, again, I've mentioned Danny, I think a couple times. I've been pretty impressed with his like pre-draft coverage this season. So shout
yeah.
out Danny Moraine. Um, he said Ingram had like one of the best interviews like post-workout in like team history. I don't know if you heard that, but
Yeah,
like
I mean, he's very well spoken.
very well spoken, very sharp. I mean,
He understands his role, what his role is. He
I
doesn't have the disillusion of I'm going to be a star.
that's what I was thinking. Like, is he this year's like Jabari
Yeah,
Walker, right? So like 38.5% from three on 4.6 attempts.
he's 6'5", but he's big.
I think, yeah, 6'5", but a 7 foot wingspan, nine
Yeah,
boards a game. Like I watched some film of him this morning, and UNC used a lot of him like as a playmaker off the elbow again. So I'm really drawn to guys like that where they're just like, oh yeah, you
good
can
second
catch and actually
rounder.
distribute. Yeah.
And someone brought
Um,
up a good point too, that now that we have the remix, that there's a lot of guys in here that's like we don't draft them and maybe they go undrafted, but you're
yeah.
signing them to the remix and you still get to, we had a lot of remix guys come up last
Yeah.
year.
Right. And
So
was
it's
like
like,
the last team to have an affiliate like
yeah,
that. So
exactly. So
thankfully,
you can take some chances on guys. I mean, you mentioned you liked Jonathan Mogbo. The 6'6" center thing scares me a little bit.
he's a total flyer.
But a guy
Um,
that's similar to him is the UCLA guy, Bona. What
yeah,
is
yeah, yep,
I mean, he's short, but he's like 7'4" wingspan. Like
yep.
you could see him being like a Biak, what's his name? Biombo.
Biombo, Biombo.
Type. Like
Yeah.
those are good second round picks.
I
I love Jalen Tyson, but he's a guy he needs to go to a team where he's gonna have the ball, right? Like he's not a
totally.
guy like I think he's really good, but he needs to go to a team that's like, hey, you're running the second unit or something like that. And that's not like there's not an obvious fit for that, for example. We talked
Tyler's,
about Dottier. Tyler Smith's another good
yeah.
shooter. I
I
like
mean,
Cameron
G Leaguer.
Christie,
Yeah, G Leaguer. Yeah. I mean, Tyler Smith could be like the if he like works, he could be the ultimate 3-and-D guy.
yeah.
So you talked about the Locked On podcast. Josh Lloyd, who when I used to play fantasy hoops a lot, I don't know if you've ever come across him on the Locked On network, but he's like the big fantasy hoops guy. He has Tyler Smith at like I think 3 or 4 in this draft. Like,
A lot of the pundits and people like us, like they love the G League Ignite
yeah,
guys.
yeah. and he has Holland at 2.
Yeah.
So big G League guy.
Holland is in a lot of the what I'd say the non-network
Yeah, yeah,
people, like they love him. And I
they
mean,
love
he
him.
is like a highlights darling. And it's like what we've talked about. He's really fast and tenacious.
Yep.
His athleticism is it's not great, but it's really good.
Yeah.
He's pretty big. I mean, he's skinny, but like he just looks like okay,
He,
that guy's he reminds me of when Nas would come in little, Nasir Little, and
yeah.
just be a little too much.
The thing about him is he's not a great defender yet. Like for being the 3 and D, he's not a great defender. So
Yeah.
like I mean, I watched some
Who's
film of
that?
him, and he got blown by like
You're talking about
um
Tyler Smith?
Tyler Smith. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
don't see him play. I don't see him as a small forward either. Like he's a
yeah.
forward for sure.
One other quick name that the Blazers just worked out, I think yesterday or a couple days ago, and I was laughing at his interview because I think it was
Ogo?
Oso Ighodaro,
Oh, so that's right.
um, Marquette 6'11", like just again that quintessential like second round
Yeah.
prospect, screen
Reminds
setter,
me of
lob threat.
Dwight Powell.
Yeah, Dwight Powell type probably honestly, and Dwight's had some good run in
Yeah.
the NBA at times.
Yeah.
He's had some stretches where he's played really well for the Mavs. So yeah, I that's a few names. We Ryan Dunn is the other one I wanted to bring up quickly. I
Yeah.
guess again, small forward. He is like supposedly, and even in his workouts, he's been like Matisse Thybulle for us, like on roids defensively.
Yeah.
Like
They
he
say he's
is,
just absolutely the best defensive
yeah,
prospect in years.
like in years. And
Yeah.
basically, it's if you can get any, like he almost can't be on the floor because of how poor his offense is right now. But if he can find a way to be on the floor, like he's gonna be a steal because his
Yeah.
defense is just like outrageous, I guess. So
And his offense is outrageously bad.
it's really bad. So you have to
Yeah.
like the
Can you
total swing.
dunk? I don't know.
I mean, Thybulle got a shot finally. I mean, he
Yeah.
doesn't shoot it at a great frequency, but if you could get that out of Ryan Dunn, it'd probably be the juice would be worth the squeeze. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot like Terrence Shannon Jr.
yeah,
He was, I don't know if it was acquitted is the legal term, but he was
yeah,
found not guilty.
yeah,
Um, I think he'd be a good pickup for someone in the second round. Like I like his game as a shooting. I mean, Baylor Shireman, there's always a white dude that can shoot. Like Sam Hauser got really good minutes in the finals and
he
hit
did.
those shots.
He was good, and he learned how to play defense. He at least
Yeah.
knew how to. He at least knew where to be.
Yeah.
Like
Clintman's one of the guys I've liked for a
Yeah.
long time. Like it just doesn't quite there's a lot of players in this draft that they don't have a one definable skill.
Yeah.
They're like well-rounded but not good enough, you
Yep.
know. So it's a lot of speculation on that. But I think in the second round you're looking for, hey, they're a really good athlete or shooter or defender or whatever, or you're just taking a complete project type of thing. So anyway.
I can finish with like that name just reminded me Kevin McCullough down there.
Yeah.
I've seen him in the earlier on in the lottery, even little undersized, and he had like a freak shooting season this year and then he got injured, but Kansas like fell off a cliff after he got injured. And
Yeah,
he just had a really, really strong shooting season. Again, maybe a little bit of a one-off type of season, even. That's kind of the, like what could happen, I think. But
he's a good defender.
As a second round pick, you could do a lot worse than a Kevin McCullough. I feel like if the Blazers drafted him at 34, whatever our last pick is, we could do a
40.
lot worse, I think.
Yeah.
40. So
yeah. And I think that's the neat thing about this draft is that there's a lot of, I mean, even like 10 on in the lottery is like, there's a lot. I mean, 10 to 40 is all kind of the same. You
could really, you can go in a lot of different directions.
Yeah.
So, because it's like we talked about it last show, the order has fluctuated so greatly. Like, Khalil Ware was like hardly in the first round a few weeks ago. Now it's like, oh, is he in the lottery?
Yeah.
And then you have a guy like Kevin McCullough, it's all over the place. So who knows? It could shake out a lot of different ways. Again, I always say like the workouts I think would be really telling, especially the group workouts where you're pinning them against each other.
Yeah.
I would, a lot of the open workouts I'm sure were very telling, but I think that's an interesting, like you're saying, interesting lottery lineup we have there. So,
Yeah.
and not something outside of the top 10 that we would often see. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I think I expect some sort of trade. I do think the Blazers have some targets that they really want. Like they're not content
yeah,
to just, hey, we know we want these two guys. Let's at least attempt to get them versus like let's just wait if it happens. So
it's
yeah,
just interesting because like Grant has like is owed so much money, and I don't think his contract is necessarily like going to hamstring us by any means, but like, I
hard to
mean,
trade. Yeah.
for a trade, and then Simons too, it's like 25 million is not nothing. So you have to
Yeah.
take back some serious salary to get off of those players.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Although, I mean, that the rumors of Paul George not going to
the
Philly
Philly, yeah.
I mean, I think they'd be fine with bringing Jeremy Grant in there. Maybe it was something else. They don't have much to give us.
I don't know what they would give us
I
though. I
watched
see
the
a 3 team.
76ers Locked On podcast and they had some proposals for Simons and Brogdon. But like the Simons one was their two picks for them, as was Jeremy Grant, and then Malcolm Brogdon was like it was two picks, but one of them was like a lottery protected Oklahoma City pick or
Yeah,
something.
no thanks.
But I mean, you're still getting 1.5 picks kind of for Brogdon, and you're clearing money without anything. I mean, if that's the prerogative. I mean, you obviously rather trade that, but like some of the stuff is like, oh, we'll trade it for the pick in this year's draft. And I'm like, I don't want a 20, you know?
If you can get a 2025 anything, if you can get a
Yeah,
lottery
no one's trading
2025,
2025.
I don't think anyone
Like,
is
what
gonna
about the
fight on that.
60th pick? No, that's
Yeah.
ours.
Yeah.
But
It's just 2025, supposedly outside of like,
yeah,
Ace Bailey, Cooper Flag. Like there is like 13, like
yeah,
6'7" to 6'10" guys that are just supposedly like, I mean, who knows how the year will shake out, but it's supposed to be just
yeah,
loaded. So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I do remember once upon a time this draft wasn't supposed to be as bad as it was. So
And who knows?
yeah.
Who knows? Like
But
it, one,
part
I
of that's
like,
the two G League guys falling and having such bad years, right? Because they were both like, oh, these are going to be like top three
yeah,
picks.
Buzelis and Holland are supposed to be top 3 picks. So,
Yeah. So
yeah.
definitely makes the projections look different. But
And I'll be interested because G League has been, I mean, that's only what the Ignite's only like a 2020 and on phenomenon. And now that it's dissolved, like what happens,
yeah,
if Buzelis and Holland one or both hit, like it hasn't been positive so far with Jalen Green, and obviously Scoot didn't have a great rookie season and others. So like, what if one of them does hit or both of them hit? It'd be like, okay, like, it wasn't like a complete loss, I guess. I don't
and
know.
I don't know if they'll never hit, but I think it definitely
Yeah.
like is delayed because of it. I think
Yeah.
that would be the way. It's like, hey, these guys could have been ready sooner if they
Yeah.
didn't play for the damn G League Ignite.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
cool. Any other tidbits?
No, I mean, I just can't wait for the draft. I mean, Blazers have a couple good shots here. This is also going to be telling for our front office. Cronin's a newer GM, and Mike Schmidt's obviously from ESPN with his like international analysis and scouting. So you hope that they can make solid decisions. And I know it's not a lock, and there's luck involved, but we really need like some contributors. And at least if they're not immediate, like I don't think any of these guys are going to be like immediate blow us away type players, but we at least need some like direction and
Yeah.
okay, yeah, this guy, we can see him contribute in 2 to 3 years, right? So I hope we can get some players like that, and I hope they've done, and I'm sure they've done their due diligence. But I'm just excited for the draft, and that's
Yeah,
Wednesday at
you want
5 our
to
time. So
you want to trust them.
mhm.
So like kind of the way I'm looking at it is like I don't want an obviously bad pick.
Yeah,
Like why the hell did you take them?
yeah,
Because it's like, hey, if we take Devin Carter, I'm gonna assume that you're trading Simons, Brogdon, or whatever,
yeah,
one or both of
yeah,
those guys, and then that's fine. But if that doesn't happen,
yeah,
like, and I'm also kind of the opinion like we had a relatively veteran roster last year with
hmm,
guys that we're hoping to get value from, which means they can't be that bad, and we
yeah,
were really bad. Let's just skip that part and just be really bad we can have a few veterans, but not veterans that take up a ton of minutes type of thing, right? And how do you make it easy? It'll be easier to say, how do you make it easy for Scoot? By the end of the year, yes, he was feeling more comfortable for sure, but we're also just running more pick and rolls with DeAndre Ayton, which
Yeah,
makes it easier for a point guard,
right.
and just things like that. Build the team around the guys that you want to. Hey, if it's let's just start Shaden Sharp. Start Shaden Sharp out.
Yeah, yeah,
So
I
he
get you.
runs
Yeah.
fast. Like don't play around with like, oh, it's gonna be we're gonna have a rotation of Simons and he's gonna start next to Scoot. And you're like, that's not something we're gonna do in the future. So why are you doing it now?
Yeah.
Those type of things is what I'd like to see. So I'm hoping the draft kind of shakes that out and we have a better idea of, hey, maybe we cleared a little bit of space and
I just don't want to hear Joe saying, like, he literally said one time, our guys have to play bigger. I'm like, that's not a thing. Like, you
yeah.
can't say that.
The
like,
guys that play bigger than their height have ridiculous wingspans
yeah,
or like tree
or
trunk
that's like,
legs.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Or they're like, you already have really good team versatility. Like, we didn't have that at that point. So
Like, Chuck
we,
Hayes plays way bigger than he is. He's only 6'6". I'm like, he's literally can't be moved when he's
mhm.
standing.
Yeah, Ben Wallace was short for a center. We didn't have that.
Yeah.
So,
He had a
yeah, so,
ridiculous wingspan and jumping ability.
mhm.
Yeah. And an afro.
So so anyway, like, he's still a pretty young GM, new to the role. I know he had tutelage under Neil, but we
Best
really
tutor,
need
best
tut
tutor there is.
tutelage under Neil.
Yeah.
But we need yeah, we just need some solid picks. And then,
Yep.
like at the very bare minimum, they're solid role players for years to come, and we have them for at least a couple contracts. So
Yeah. Yeah. So we will do our next video sometime after the draft.
mhm.
Maybe when things have cleared a little bit, and reminder that the draft is 2 days now. So I think the NBA's idea is that more things can happen if they do it in 2 days instead of everyone have to make these trades in one night and that kind of stuff.
Probably fair, honestly.
We'll see if that's true or not.
Yeah.
Why don't they just give them another day before it's finalized?
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, we'll be back then. And toodaloo, as they say.
Yeah. Thanks for being a member of our audience, and we hope to bring more great content in the future. And go Blazers.